Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Erica Hashemi, and I'm part of the Mojo Networks marketing team. On behalf of our presenter and myself, I would like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for one of our new and very exciting weekly demos. I would now like to introduce our presenter, Sean Blanton, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Mojo Networks. Today, Sean is going to use the next 30 minutes to show you the 4 major threats your wireless network is most likely to encounter and how Mojo Networks can help make them a thing of the past.
All right, thanks, Erica. And thank you, everybody, for joining, watching now and watching to the future. Really excited to talk to you today about a topic that is very close to my heart. I love talking about security, and in particular, talking about wireless security. Because the thing about wireless security is that it's just way too easy to bypass network security controls when non-authorized Wi-Fi is so readily available. And that is really the challenge that we face today. A breakdown of your entire network security strategy when someone can just up and leave your network for something else. This is a big challenge. And what we're going to talk about today are these 4 threats: rogue access points, trusted clients, evil twins and honeypots, and then finally BYOD clients. We're going to dissect them. We're going to define them, make sure we understand exactly what threat they pose. I want to share some stories working with customers that I've worked with over the last couple of years. And we're going to really look at what Mojo can do to help keep these at bay. In general, what we're going to be really defining is what we call Mojo Airtight. It's a system that monitors every wireless connection out there and acts to prevent any that are deemed malicious or simply not allowed. At Mojo, we use a proprietary set of techniques to detect where access points reside. That provides the foundation we need to enable automatic prevention. Once our access points and our clients are properly classified, we can develop rules that will block specific connections. Prevention occurs over the wire and over the air for maximum effectiveness. So let's begin, and let's really dive into our first threat, the one that most people think when they think wireless security, and that is our rogue access point. So quick definition: rogue access points are connected to your network, but were not installed by you. So what threats do they face? Well, this one also seems pretty obvious. You see, rogue access points open your network. They open the network to unwanted connections, and they can expose sensitive systems and data as a result. I'm reminded of a customer I worked with a few years back, which I think really illustrates both the threat of a rogue access point as well as the unsuspecting nature that this threat poses. This particular customer, this particular story actually occurs before they became a customer. They're a very distributed environment. They have their primary campus HQ, but they had 70 distributed offices that they also managed centrally. Now, as we started to talk about all aspects of Wi-Fi and we zeroed in on talking about security, I got stopped. I was told that we are very confident that we have a handle on the rogue access point. I was assured that they had rules in place for office network conduct, that he and his team had visibility into switch activity, and had even implemented firewalls to block traffic from these specific ports that were not being used. So despite everything we talked about, he felt very confident that should a rogue access point ever appear, he would know about it and he would be able to stop it. Well, the reason why I love this story so much is because not even 2 days later, I get the call. And what had happened was one of these offices had called in to discuss a number of issues on the network. One of those issues was getting help for their access point. Now, this very much surprised the customer because they had no access points at this point. What he found out was that this remote office had installed an AP 3 months prior. It had been acting up recently, and he was hoping that as a central IT organization, they could do him a solid and help him solve this issue. The threat of a rogue access point opening up your network is also how difficult it can be to find them. And that's precisely where our solution is. Our solution for rogue access points is implementing 24/7 scanning with accurate classification. So let's take a quick look at how Mojo does that. I'm going to zero in on my office here in Los Angeles, and we're going to take a look at how my office is set up. Now, you'll notice here that through the Mojo dashboard, I have access to a lot of information. We're going to focus in on our security view. On a regular basis, ongoing. Despite the fact that my access point is providing access to multiple clients, I'm hopping from channel to channel, providing me with a full look at every single network that surrounds me. 41 active wireless networks that have the potential to provide a connection and have the potential to be tethered to my wire. Through a proprietary technique we call the marker packet technique, we can create traffic on the wire, look for that traffic in the air, and help determine whether or not a wireless network is actually connected to the same wire on which our Mojo device lives. And that's how I'm able to take 41 wireless networks, confirm that 39 are external and 2 are on the network. By process elimination, that red one is an access point that I did not install myself. That is my rogue. So let's talk about our next threat, trusted clients, one that most people don't see as a threat. Because a trusted client is a corporate issued device that's allowed to access your network. Why is this a wireless threat? Well, this is a wireless threat because once authenticated, trusted clients have access to your network. And network security defenses will not flag their behavior as troubling. And the problem is these trusted clients can often bridge access to your wired network wirelessly. Another customer I was working with, this particular customer working in the biotech field, had hundreds of facilities across the world. Small IT team, also centrally managed. And in fact, they had no Wi-Fi in many of these locations. In part, it was because they were challenged with so many projects on their plate that they were directed to make things work as easily as possible. So many remote networks were running off of the best available internet access, not on their MPLS, but also a lot of these sites were considered self-contained, in part because of the high value of the data within. They felt that by protecting the data, they wanted to remove certain elements they deemed unsecure, namely Wi-Fi. The underlying issue here was a lack of group policy. And one of the best solutions for addressing trusted client issues is using group policy. Through group policy, we can restrict activity and we can restrict what a particular endpoint can and cannot do. But as it relates to Mojo Networks, where we can add onto this layer of security is through additional monitoring capabilities. So that no matter what your group policy capabilities are, we will give you insight into what clients are doing and give you the opportunity to stop them in their tracks. So let's head back into our console here. We first looked at access points and our ability to scan for and identify where they live and classify them appropriately. In order for our security practice to build, we need to do the same thing for our clients. Now, as I filter down on all of my active clients, you can see that I've actually picked up a number of devices that are hanging out in my airspace, many of which, if you see here, are not connected to anything. Others are connected to my corporate issued network, but one in particular is giving me trouble. Here, we have a trusted device, a device that, for all intents and purposes, has connected to our wired network, has gained access to various resources on that network, but in this case, is promoting an ad hoc network. Now, for any unsuspecting client who saw that network out there, they would see that it was open, easy to access, and it could gain them the ability to tap into servers and applications that they wouldn't have access to otherwise. This level of visibility is critical for our strategy to continue to grow, because once we can see clients and see what they're doing and classify them accordingly, we can really start to implement automatic prevention. And that leads us into our third threat, evil twins and honeypots. Now, as a certified ethical hacker, I have a special place in my heart for these types of attacks because this is the active attack. An evil twin and a honeypot are external wireless networks that entice and encourage clients to connect. Now, the primary difference between the two is that while a honeypot is simply enticing, an open network in an area where I need Wi-Fi, maybe an airport, maybe a coffee spot, maybe a school. An evil twin is more specifically mimicking an existing network. At a retail location, for example, that is known to have Wi-Fi, I would set up an evil twin that looks and feels just like that same network. To the unsuspecting client, they're connecting to the right network. But in my mind, I know they're connecting to mine. And that's precisely where the threat lies. Because once a client is on these networks, they are at the mercy of that malicious host's attacks. I want to tell you a story that surprised me when I heard this story, because typically when you think about this threat, you have a picture in your mind. That criminal hacker, that loathsome, malicious individual. But in this particular case, I was at a school. This particular K through 12 had about a dozen schools. This story happened in their high school. You know, their IT organization very concerned about external threats. So what do? First, strong network security, firewalls, application visibility, content filtering, as much to attack their CIPA compliance measures as it was to provide real security for students and teachers on the network. They also had good physical security, cameras that were also Wi-Fi enabled to spot suspicious people that might be in and around campus. And then they brought us in so they could start implementing wireless security to give them better visibility into the wireless space, especially as their Wi-Fi needs for classroom activities and faculty activities were growing. Well, shortly after we started to implement, we quickly uncovered our evil twin inside the high school. We tracked it down to a classroom behind a chalkboard, and we found that a student had set up a malicious access point in that classroom. This particular access point was designed specifically after they talked to the student in question with the intent to have other students connect to it to steal their credit card numbers through an attack known as an SSL strip attack, an attack that can strip away encrypted information from an SSL connection and reveal sensitive data. This blew the minds of this IT organization who was so focused on external threats, that picture of that hacker we just talked about, that they didn't even think that a student inside the organization might actually perpetrate the attack. So what are we going to do to help with this? Well, here we start to move into the world of over-the-air prevention. So prevention is fundamental as it relates to building on our detection capabilities. We talked about how we classify access points and clients. And so now we can really start to dig into our WIP's policy, and in particular, intrusion prevention. Simply put, intrusion prevention monitors connections, validates the classification of the access point and the client, and determines if that connection is allowed or disallowed. As you can see here, anything with a checkbox next to it is not allowed. And in the case of this particular school, we looked at client prevention as our solution to this particular challenge. You see, as we ran our tests, we would have spotted, as we did, the evil twin. Recognizing that evil twin, we have threat prevention in place that would allow us to not just identify it, but to actively prevent people from connecting to it. First, this takes the place of over the wire. We target that device on the wire. We fill its MAC table full of garbage. We ensure that if anything were to connect to it, it would not be able to route past the access point. But in addition to that, we're able to actually provide over-the-air prevention. And over-the-air prevention deauthenticates any type of user deemed authorized or guest and disassociates them from that access point. If the access point is actually tethered to the network itself, it'll disconnect any user, no matter how they're classified. And it does this automatically, 24/7, 365. So finally, our last threat of the day, we talk about BYOD clients. So here we have a very broad definition. These are wireless clients that don't belong to you, but are present near or even connected to your Wi-Fi. Now, the challenge with BYOD clients is numerous. Number one, they're not yours. So you don't know what they are and how secure they are. The other challenge is that these devices, which are very often smartphones and tablets, have cellular connections. And they have the capability of creating 3G, 4G soft APs or hotspots that can allow for unfettered internet access. So we're looking at a BYOD client and we're seeing that in many ways, they represent the threats that we've talked about so far. They can create access for trusted clients to hop off of a secure network and browse elsewhere. They can provide access, or rather, they can bring in threats to the network that were not found before due to unknown make, model, and security level. I was working with a financial institution a while back, a very large campus environment. They saw a lot of traffic, and this traffic was from all different types of companies, trading firms, agencies, law firms. They were a hub of sorts for these types of activities, these financial activities. So they put a lot of effort in creating a secure wireless environment over which these meetings could be held. It was monitored. It allowed for secure encrypted access so that transactions could occur without issue. Shortly after they installed Mojo, as an effort to continue on that security, we actually found 2 authorized machines. These were corporate issued machines that were allowed on the secure network, but we found them connected to a soft AP. Now, before, this soft AP had been around for some time, but it had always been perceived as a network that was too far away due to its light signal strength and its low power. And as a result, it was never being flagged as being on-premise. When we saw that these devices were connecting to it and doing so on-premise, we recognized, and through investigation found, that both these individuals happened to be from different firms. Now, it turned out that they were friends. And what they were doing was connecting to the soft AP to play an online game together during their downtime. The secure Wi-Fi had stopped them from accessing the sites that they wanted to access. Now, they lost their jobs as a result. For all anyone knew, they were passing trade secrets, or they were passing personal identifiable information between each other. This was a serious offense, in particular in the financial world, relative to their compliance and security mandates, but this could really apply to any organization that has private information that is confidential. And so the solution to BYOD clients is really looking at everything we've talked about so far. You want to start with proper access point classification. This is the key. With proper access point classification, knowing without a shadow of a doubt whether or not an access point resides on your network, I can apply the classification to my clients. I know exactly who my trusted clients are, and I can monitor them if they open up network access through ad hoc or bridging connections. And I can monitor if they're connecting to networks that are not authorized. I have my eyes out for evil twins and honeypots. I want to ensure that if anyone's setting up a network that I don't allow, that they're not doing so, whether it's on my network or off, especially if it looks suspicious. And finally, when we have that capability in place, when we have that visibility in place, after we've implemented strong authentication for our trusted network and use group policy to govern what those devices can and can't do, we enable automatic prevention. We look at defenses over the wire to keep access points on our network from allowing access to the network. And then we implement over the air, where we can actively combat clients who are attempting to connect the networks that we don't actively control, keeping our trusted clients on our network and keeping untrusted clients off. And so with that, I'd like to open the floor for any questions that you might have about wireless threats, the top 4 that we discussed today, and how you can keep them at bay.
Terrific. Thank you for the wonderful presentation, Sean. I just wanted to open the floor, as Sean mentioned, for any questions. Again, you can submit them through the chat window or the Q&A panel on GoToWebinar. And while we're waiting for any questions to come in, I just wanted to remind everybody that these weekly demo series are happening every Wednesday at 11, and we have a new set of 5 coming out again starting in the beginning of July. So we look forward to seeing you all online, and next week we will be talking about maximizing your Wi-Fi investment. So if you're interested in joining that, you can visit the webinar section of our website and register for next Wednesday. So I don't see any questions coming through, Sean. Again, if you have questions that come up later or you'd like to reach out to us, you can go ahead and give us a call at the number on the screen, or you could send us an email to myrep@mojonetworks.com. Fantastic. We have a question here coming in for Sean.
All right, so it looks like the question being asked is, do you consider RF signature anomalies to be a threat? Now, I suppose that I'd like to get a little bit more information about exactly what those anomalies mean, or at least how you're defining those anomalies. In some cases, we look at RF and we look at what can be done from a jamming perspective. So typically, if we think about RF as an attack, we're thinking about it in the context of jamming. And yes, absolutely. Jamming is something that is scarily easy to do. It's very much against the law, but it does cause denial of service. And denial of service can be particularly disrupting if so much of your business is being run over Wi-Fi. We actually do have methods that would allow us to mitigate a denial of service attack. I'll be the first to admit that it's not an easy attack to mitigate. It's a challenge on and off the network. But we do have capabilities that would allow us to isolate the device that is causing the jam, to affect devices that are client devices that are trying to connect and reconnect to the access points being jammed, and route them to APs in the vicinity that would allow them access, keeping them on that network, preventing them from being affected by it. It's a calculated move. It takes a little bit of time to build up and to react to, because of course we want to make sure that we're not reacting to subtle variations in RF. But we do have the proper implementation in place to address that should it become a major issue.
Great, thank you, Sean. And I'll give it just another minute if any more questions or any follow-up come in. Again, if something comes up or you'd like to reach out to us, you can still send an email to myrep@mojonetworks.com or contact us through the website. Any questions you may have, we will look forward to getting back to you. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it, give everyone back 6 extra minutes of their day, but we appreciate you again taking the time. And this will be available on demand on YouTube and on our website by the end of today. So we appreciate everybody's time. And if you'd like to share this session with anyone, please pass it along. And have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.